Good morning. It is another day of working in the shop, and we are working on the Bombi. Some of the big brains out there guessed that was next.
And they were right.
Let me tell you everything I love about the Bombi, and then I'm going to tell you everything I hate about the Bombi. And then we're going to put more of the love in and take all of the hate out.
Might be a little lopsided.
It's going to be lopsided in the direction of love. So first of all, I'm going to go over everything that I hate about the Bombi in no particular order. I hate these heater boxes. There's no handle on here, so you cut your fingers turning them off and on, and they sound like a jet engine. The back seat is too small.
See, I don't fit.
This ratchet shifter is terrible, and I have to do a 3-hour training course before I can have anybody drive this anywhere.
I completed the training course and I'm certified to drive.
Mechanical brakes, they heat up. After 50 feet of driving, the brakes get really good. And then at 70 feet, they start fading and they never come back.
The brakes are also how you steer, so they're pretty important.
This, I hate this skylight. I don't know why they put it in here, but it sounds like this. Except for louder and more annoying the entire time you're driving. We're gonna get rid of that.
No skylight.
Nah, what's it for?
We're literally driving in bad weather. Why would you want to know?
Some of the gauges on here work, some of them don't. Ironically, the fuel gauge is one of them that does work.
You have a vehicle with a working fuel gauge?
I don't know how accurate it is, but it does move up and down with the fuel quantity.
Well, we'll probably fix that.
I don't know what all these switches go to. Some of them go to nothing, and the exterior lighting is abysmal. It is just terrible.
What about that wiper? Does that do anything?
Used to. Not anymore. Another thing that I hate about the Bombi is it's got a Vortec 4.3, which is a good engine, but it's not running right. And I'll lose an entire bank of cylinders all of a sudden, and they'll come and go. So it'll be like, brr, brr, brr. And it doesn't make, there's no rhyme or reason to it. These tracks are wore out. So a new set of tracks is like $20,000. And I don't want to drop that kind of coin on this thing.
In this condition.
Right. For the foreseeable future.
You want the Bombi to be worth a new set of tracks.
I do. I want it to be able to work on the mud flats, the sand, and the snow. This basket is made out of jagged metal, and we tried to clean it up, but look at this. You are one tiny hand swipe away from stitches. Cooling capacity is not sufficient for wintertime, let alone summertime cooling. These Bombi tires are a proprietary design. They're super expensive. These ones are filled with foam rubber and they are heavy and they're coming apart. So that was probably too much negativity. Now I'm gonna talk about what I love about the Bombi.
It's yellow.
I think it is the coolest looking little snow machine I've ever seen. Other than those big Tuckers, those are cool looking. But as far as tiny little snow cats go, this Bombi, I just think it looks amazing. It has put in an awful lot of work for me. We have done some really rugged jobs with it, operating way outside of its intended purpose. It's done good things for us. I like the visibility. I like the versatility. I like that it's going to be awesome when we get done upgrading it.
Do you like the size? Overall length good?
Yeah. For what we do, the size is perfect.
Width? Too? Mm-hmm. You're trying to make the tracks any bigger or longer?
Let's talk about that.
Okay.
We're gonna upgrade this.
We're gonna upgrade this.
We're gonna upgrade these. We're gonna upgrade this.
We're gonna upgrade this.
We're gonna upgrade these.
More upgrades down here.
We're gonna upgrade these.
We're gonna upgrade these.
We're gonna upgrade this.
We're gonna upgrade this.
We're gonna upgrade both of these.
We're gonna upgrade these.
There's a torch transmission right underneath those seats. We're gonna upgrade that.
You can't see it, but the axle's under here, and we're gonna upgrade that.
We're gonna add a winch.
And a bumper.
We are gonna add this.
Can we please have a seat in here?
No. It'll be nice not to have to carry all these around everywhere. Now all we gotta do is take it apart.
All right, the whole thing?
Yep.
Okay.
The Bombi's wounded.
She's bleeding. She's bleeding out.
Okay. We don't need this. Like that is a lot of weight to be hauling around. So I don't know what to do.
There you go.
I've never changed the oil in this, and look
you're
how
supposed to be embarrassed about that, Matt. You don't brag about that kind of stuff.
look how good it looks.
How's it taste?
It doesn't even taste acidic.
Let's go to lunch.
Oh yeah, it's Tom's birthday.
You guys weren't supposed to know that.
We're going to Red Lobster because that's Tom's favorite place to eat.
I struggle with birthdays. People ask you what you want, you give them part numbers, you open the box, and it's a tie.
Pairing number 2.
All right, we're back from lunch and we're back on this. I think we're gonna just move to the inside of the cab and remove the seats. I don't know. What we're
Rip
doing.
it down completely. Everything's coming out.
Yeah, everything must go. This is like a fire sale.
Even that.
I forgot to tell you how much I hate the fact that the battery to this is under here, and after all this removal, we still haven't even got to it yet.
I haven't even seen it. One more layer to get to the battery.
I'd like to put an aluminum floor in this. Oh, we still gotta take the back seat out because the battery's under the back seat.
Wow.
There it is.
And even still, it looks like a nightmare to finish.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on here.
Yeah.
Fuel, multiple filters. Is one of these a regulator? What do you got?
I don't know if
Stuff.
I've ever seen a battery so close to a transmission.
What about this fuel tank that is
Oh,
part of the drive
tunnel?
shaft protector? Yeah, and get this battery disconnected as soon as possible.
Is it a 1/2 inch wrench?
Yeah, 1/2 inch end wrench will do it.
What you doing?
We are upgrading this.
Are you gonna make some more room so that we're not so squished when we get in there?
That is one of the 43 things we're going to change about this.
This is gonna be a nice family vehicle.
Getting
Family
fuel
vehicle.
into this tank, Tom, is something to consider.
Just keep what we got. Keep the horrible setup we're using.
Is this where the fuel goes in at?
Yes.
Huh.
Right here.
Sadly, yes.
Oh, yes. I
What
see
if you
that.
just put a fuel cap in your center console next to your shifter?
So you just take the seat out, fill it
Oh
up.
no, so you just go to the gas station, open the door, put
Yeah.
the whole thing in the middle right next to your
It
drink
could
holder.
Double, yeah, drink holder / gas filler.
Yeah.
Okay. But look at some of these features. So you got a mechanical disc brake here that absolutely gets torched. And then this is a pump.
I saw it's got something it's running off of. What is that?
It sucks fluid out of this box, sends it out to the cooler, and dumps it back
Dude,
into
we're
this
gonna
box.
simplify this thing so much.
But that's to cool the brakes, because this has a very
Yeah.
elaborate.
Well, let's get rid of that whole hydraulic setup and everything, all these hydraulic lines running back and forth. We'll just dump all that.
Okay. Just gets so much water in it.
Ooh.
That would be spicy in the old smudge pot. So it looks like this cab is held on with 4 bolts. That's all I'm seeing. There's one on each side there, and then one on each side up front. Right here's one. And they're little bolts too. This one's a 1/4 inch.
Safety.
Safety. I don't know if this is gonna work or not.
Is anyone missing it all right now? It's just down.
Last time we were rolling these tracks up like this, It was over by Pine Valley and it was, I don't know, 5 degrees. My hands were sticking to them, freezing to them like your tongue to a flagpole in Wisconsin in the middle of winter. So it was cold. It's quitting time. Everybody wants to go home. We'll be back tomorrow all right, we got a lot of work done on the Bombi. We're not done yet, but we're gonna interrupt for just a second because these full throttle batteries came in for the Morrvair. I've been running these on multiple things on the trailers. We've been welding with them. I'm really impressed with their performance. The Wrecker has them. It'll run all those winches. So we are gonna be upgrading the battery capacity of the Morrvair with these full throttle batteries. I'm gonna do that real quick and then back to the Bombi.
Break it down?
No, we're putting new, bigger batteries in it.
Oh,
Higher capacity, better for winching.
yeah, that'll help you when the truck got to pull it out sideways.
Yeah. One, two.
Are we done with the welder? We did it! We got it to work.
If you'd like to up your battery game, you can go to the link in the description and pick out a nice full throttle battery for your ride
You can also get a 10% off discount if you use the code MORR.
at checkout. All right, let's get this thing out of here and get back on the Bombi. I think we've had the Bombi for 3 winter seasons. It's proved its worth every single one of those, but not without some struggles. So one day I get a call from Paul out of the blue. Hey, what's up? And he said that South Central had an old snowcat they were getting rid of. They had it in Kanab at their yard. I could come up and look at it. Oh yeah? Absolutely, I'm interested. I'll be there tomorrow. So the very next day, I met Paul up there. We went to the yard, we looked at it, and I said, I'll take it. It wasn't much to look at, but it did come with a trailer. It also didn't run, it needed a fuel pump. So we got it back to the yard. It would run on ether, so that was a good indicator that the fuel pump was bad. So I had a mechanic put a fuel pump in it, test drove it for the first time. I was in love.
This is awesome.
So the first job for the Bombi was a really long one. It was about 11 miles of backcountry, deep powder snow to get in to get, there was a 4-wheeler on tracks and a snowmobile. Both of them had died and they couldn't get them started. And so we had to go up and get those. I also took it out with the scouts for a snow camping activity. And I noticed that it was smelling more and more like gas all the time. And I thought it was the filler neck, that something was going on with that. But I didn't really investigate it. We put it away for the summer and I forgot about it. The next fall, when we dug it out and started it up, it wasn't a gas smell. It was liquid gas pouring out from the belly pan.
This smells really bad. There's a gas leak or something. Here, shut it off.
Pulled in the shop and discovered that it's leaking fuel all over the place.
That's the smell.
Peanut thinks we're going somewhere, and she doesn't want to miss the ride. You will do anything not to miss the ride, won't you? So it turns out, instead of fuel line being ran from the pump to the engine, it was transmission cooler line that had been run. And it was so, do you remember what that looked like? Like the hose was like delaminated and peeled apart.
It was crazy.
And it was like jelly. So the battery was right there, and this line was coming out right here. And it just spraying gas all over everything there. A little bit scary, because then I remembered all the times that we were driving it around the mountain and it would smell like gas so strong we'd have to open the doors. But it gave us a chance to put high pressure line on it and fix the fact that the fuel filter had been put on the return line instead of the pressure line. So now that we got it running good and it's not spewing gas everywhere, it's safe to put it back to work, and put it back to work we did. Let me tell you what it's like to drive this thing. I don't even know what year it is. It could be a 50s or a 60s. It's definitely not a 90s. It's really, really old. So this is what it's like to drive it. This is how you steer it. Now it's got brake-based steering. So we did have comments that are like, don't you know how to drive a skid steer? You pull back on one and push forward on the other and you can just pivot in a spot.
It's not like that.
This won't do that. This is just brakes. And when you're in powder, it takes a long time to turn a brake-based machine, because if you just hold one, this track will just dig into the ground. So instead of turning, you'll just fall in. So you gotta, you know, it takes a little bit of forethought to maneuver one of these.
I remember we were driving on a back road, I think going to get like an F-150 or something, and it was like 2 feet of powder, and I was like freezing in the back seat, and Matt's like holding this, just trying to turn so we don't go off the edge.
That's another thing. So these, it's got band brakes in there, and they're bathed in a mineral gear lube. And there is a cooler for this. There's a pump and there's a cooler, but they would heat up and quit working. So what happens is you fire it up, it's ice cold, and you go to drive it and you have no steering. Not like you're like hauling on these, trying to get it to steer. And then about, I don't know, 1 to 2 minutes into the drive, it starts working. They're like you can pivot and do all kinds of stuff. And then at about minute 4, they start fading. And so they would heat up, and if you had a long trip with a lot of turns, you'd have to stop. Because you'd see it. I'm like, this is not doing it. And then you'd have to put it in reverse and hold this one and see if you could get this one to hold while you pivoted it backwards and then pivot it to make the turn. There's a couple of jobs. That job that we did up on the mountain where the truck had like flat tires and was out of gas and everything like that. Do you remember the last like half mile?
Yeah.
It had no steering.
I
Like,
was
it was
asleep
like,
in the back, and I remember I like look up and we're almost running into a tree, and you stop and had to back up.
and I would just back up till I hit an obstacle that would turn me the right direction and then go. So it was a little bit like when I was doing the Versals with Bleeping Matt back in that Cherokee down the trail. I'm not in control, but I know that I'm eventually going to hit something that bumps me the right direction, and when that happens, we're just going to go with it. This is not shaped like a Bombi. The only thing that was Bombi is pretty much what you're looking at right here. The tracks, the axles, and the tug. The engine, transmission, they're out of a Chevy Astrovan. The steering levers are like pruning shears, extendable.
They look very homemade.
They're extendable. It says right on them. But they worked good, pretty good. We had to do some repairs to keep them together. That was from the steering problem we were talking about, where you get haul on a little bit too hard. So the biggest job, like the most difficult job that this ever went on, was up in Indianola. Robbie called me. He says, hey, there's a bunch of these vehicles up here. I'm going to need help getting them out. Once I looked at all the things that were getting out, I'm like, hey, Rory, come on over. So it was Robbie, myself, and Rory. We went up there, and I put this little Bombi to the test. We worked it so hard. The job before that Indianola job, we lost a tire. One of the back tires exploded, and the back tire is what holds the tension on the tracks. Well, with that tire gone, the track wouldn't stay on. We couldn't keep moving. That was a long, cold, hard night. But we got it loaded on the trailer eventually. It was not easy, but we got it loaded on, brought it back, thrashed on it the entire day, and then the next day we went to Indianola and worked it the hardest it's ever been worked. So now we're at Indianola. We've got a skid steer, a big old truck, an F450 or 550, and what else? What was
And
the
then
third
it was
one?
a Dodge 2500.
Dodge 2500. And they were like down in this hole, and none of them ran right, and snow was everywhere, and we were working everything really hard. And one of the cleats came off the tracks, and I noticed it. Luckily it was on the driver's side, and I noticed it, and we had Rory patch it up. That repair is still on there. Every single job since then, it's just been on that repair. If you wonder if Rory does quality work, this guy says he does. Good work! The Indianola job was really cold. Like, it was...
I had bought snow pants just for that, and I was like 7 layers on, and by the time it got dark, I was frozen.
Yeah, it got down into the low single digits, or maybe even below, but I'd have to keep stopping to let the Bombi cool down. So that was foreshadowing for the next job that we went on, the next big job. It was super warm. It was like 50 degrees. It was down on Mount Charleston, I guess up on Mount Charleston, but down in the Las Vegas area. And that was a long one in too. Do you remember how many miles we drove in?
It was, I think, 3 or 4 miles in.
I think it was more like 15.
I think it was like 7.
7?
Okay, so somewhere between 3 or 4 miles and 15, we drove in to get this truck out of there. And driving in, it was already having overheating problems. And we took panels off and left them there.
Yeah.
Took the panels off. We made it to the truck, and we worked it really, really hard to get that truck out of there. And then it started boiling over. Like, I don't know how many times we stopped, half a dozen times we stopped to add coolant.
Throw snow in the radiator.
Throw snow in the radiator. Meanwhile, while the engine is overheating, the transmission is also deciding it's going to check out. And we knew, like, it was showing signs of problems before, but the smoke inside the cab was from the heating up this transmission and burning the oil off from it. So the transmission got smoking hot, like 300 degrees, I don't know. Hot enough to smoke. And we lost fourth gear. And I think that one was already slipping. Then third gear went away. Then second gear went away. And we were left with just first gear and reverse. We had both of those, but not reliably. We did make it back to the trailer, and it was able to like you would put it in gear, and you might have footage of this, Colby, I don't know, where we put it in gear and like, and it takes off.
We have a lot of footage of that.
A couple days after we finished that job in Mount Charleston, another job came in, a Jeep that had fallen through a track up in Mammoth Creek.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
And so I'm like, well, we have first gear, and it went in there and got it. And
It took forever to get to it. It was like a half a mile, and we were in first gear the whole way.
Just creeping.
What about that job where we went in to get that Pioneer up by Beaver? And it was snow on one side of the hill going out, and it was dirt because it was.
Oh, where
like,
we got the truck
where we
stuck
had
like
to
5 times.
unload it and load it like 7 times on the way out.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a. I would never bring that job up again. You guys have been asking for it for a long time. It is time for us to completely build this up to spec. So we have a rule where our off-road vehicles, to be off-road certified, have to be able to climb slip lock, waterfall, the horseshoe falls.
Does that count snow though? Snow recovered vehicles?
I don't know if you're gonna get a tracked vehicle up
know.
slip lock, but we're gonna test it. So we metaphorically burned the Bombi down to ashes, and then it's gonna rise up like a phoenix bird, but it's not a bird, it's a Bombi. But it's not just a Bombi, it's gonna be better than a Bombi, it's gonna be the killer Bombi.
We're gonna call it the Killer Bee.
Woohoo! Buzz all over the mountains.
What's your goal to have this finished?
Before the snow flies.
October, maybe.
We're gonna get right after it as fast as we can.
Thanks for watching.
We're gonna get you fixed up real good. All by myself, don't wanna be all by